They said I was too emotional, that I was overreacting, that accusing their star manager would only ruin me. They were right about one thing. I did get ruined, but not for long, because what they didn't know was I kept every receipt. My name is Maya Reed, and for a while, I was the golden girl of the company. I was the youngest senior strategist in their history, just 28 years old, leading million-dollar campaigns, managing teams twice my age, and winning awards I never even dreamed of. Everyone said I was going places. The CEO called me the future of this company. I believed him. I believed in them all. Until the day everything shattered. It started on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. I was finishing up a presentation when I realized I'd left my tablet in the conference room. I went back, quietly, unnoticed, and that's when I saw it. Blake, our regional manager, and a junior intern, in a locked room, in a moment that should have never happened. The intern looked shocked, terrified. She adjusted her blouse and left in a rush. Blake? He just smiled at me like nothing was wrong. I stood there, frozen, my heart racing, my mind trying to make sense of what I'd just witnessed. It wasn't just inappropriate, it was dangerous. He was in a position of power. She was barely out of college, and I was suddenly holding a secret no one wanted to hear. The next morning, I did what I thought was right. I filed a report, quietly, discreetly. I trusted the process. I thought the company that praised my values and ethics would stand behind me. I didn't realize I had just signed my own termination letter. I expected an email from HR, maybe a closed-door meeting, maybe even a quiet suspension while they investigated Blake, but instead, I got silence. 2 days passed, then 3. No one contacted me. No one asked for details. Then, on Friday, I was called into a performance review. That's when I knew. The woman across from me, HR director, couldn't even look me in the eyes. She read off a paper like a robot. We've noticed concerns regarding your attitude and behavior with upper management. Your communication style has been described as abrasive. I almost laughed. Abrasive? I'd been praised for being assertive, for leading tough projects. Now suddenly I was difficult, a liability, an inconvenience, all because I spoke the truth. I asked her if this had anything to do with my report about Blake. She blinked, hesitated, then said flatly, "This decision was made independently." And just like that, I was fired. 3 years of excellence erased with a single sheet of paper. What hurt most wasn't the job. It wasn't even the betrayal. It was knowing that Blake would walk back into that office on Monday, untouched, protected, that the intern I tried to help would have to face him again. I was just another woman who couldn't handle the pressure. They thought they'd silenced me. But the truth? They didn't destroy me, they just redirected me. And what came next? That was the part they'd never be ready for. They escorted me out of the building that same afternoon. I didn't even get to pack my desk. My nameplate was removed. My email? Deactivated within the hour. It was like I never existed. I walked out with nothing but my bag and a hollow feeling in my chest. The same co-workers who used to high-five me in the hallway now avoided my eyes. Not one person stood up for me. Not one. And Blake? Oh, he got promoted 2 weeks later. A press release, a company-wide email. Congratulations from the same executives who once called me family. My phone stopped ringing. My inbox stayed empty. Job applications went unanswered. Word travels fast in our industry. I was being blacklisted, labeled as a troublemaker, a risk. I didn't leave my apartment for days, curtains drawn, dishes piling up. I'd stare at the ceiling, wondering, did I ruin my life by doing the right thing? But pain has a strange way of shaping you, somewhere between the silence and the shame. I remembered something. Before they gave me a title, I had talent. Before they printed my name on a badge, I had drive. And before they fired me, I had proof. Screenshots, emails, meeting notes, everything I'd submitted, everything they ignored, and had kept it all. I sat up, opened my laptop, pulled up a folder I hadn't touched since the day I reported Blake. As I scrolled through the evidence, I felt something I hadn't in weeks. Fire. The kind that doesn't burn, but builds. They wanted me erased, but now I was going to make sure they never forgot my name. I didn't go public right away. That would have been easy, loud, satisfying, maybe, but reckless. I wanted something they couldn't recover from. So I planned every file, every calendar invite, every email thread Blake had sent, many of them laced with inappropriate language, lopsided power dynamics, and late-night meeting requests. I sorted, cataloged, and backed up twice. I even had HR's initial written acknowledgement of my report before they conveniently lost it. That I needed more than proof. I needed precision. I bought a domain name, theBlakeFiles.com, just that. No names at first, just stories, documents, evidence. I made it anonymous, sterile, professional, no anger, just facts, cold, undeniable facts. I sent the link. Not to the media, not to my old coworkers. I sent it to his wife. She was a sharp woman, worked in finance. She knew what she was looking at. She didn't reply, didn't make a scene, but she didn't stay silent either. Within 48 hours, the site had over 50,000 views. Screenshots were circulating, Reddit threads exploded, and then the real hammer dropped. An internal leak from someone on the board. An emergency meeting had been called. Blake had been suspended. Suddenly, the same company that tossed me aside like trash was under fire. Their own employees were demanding answers. Investors pulled out. A journalist from a major outlet reached out to me. And yet, I still hadn't shown my face. I was watching from the shadows while their empire trembled. They took my voice, so I used a keyboard. They tried to silence me, so I built a megaphone. And it was only just beginning. The morning news picked it up first, a quiet segment about anonymous allegations of misconduct at a mid-sized marketing firm. But it wasn't quiet for long. By afternoon, 3 more articles appeared, blogs, forums. Then a national women in tech publication ran a piece called The Whistle They Tried to Mute. They didn't name me, but the story, it was unmistakably mine. Clients began pulling out. Sponsors released statements. Employees staged a walkout, demanding transparency. Suddenly, the leadership team, so smug, so untouchable, was panicking. Blake was officially terminated. Not quietly, not with dignity. His exit was headline material. His LinkedIn account vanished overnight, and the company issued an apology. Not to me, of course, just one of those cold, PR-written, "We are deeply concerned about recent events" type apologies, the kind that admits nothing and means even less. But I wasn't done, because while they scrambled to patch up the image I'd cracked open, I had already begun building something of my own. I started a consulting firm. Just me, a laptop, and a mission to help ethical businesses thrive and to protect young professionals from what I went through. Within weeks, former co-workers reached out, then others from across the country, women, men, interns, managers, people who had been silenced too, people who needed a place to land. I gave them one. I didn't just take revenge. I created competition, real competition. My first client, a major sponsor who'd just dropped my old company. They signed with me instead. And I made sure they knew exactly why. Because the greatest revenge isn't just about watching someone fall. It's about rising so high, they can't even see you anymore. At first, I thought I wanted to see them burn, that if I just destroyed what they built, I'd feel healed. But revenge is tricky like that. It tastes sweet in your imagination, bitter in reality. So when I watched their stock drop, their leadership resign, and their PR team scramble like ants in a flood, I didn't feel joy. I felt nothing, because I hadn't come this far just to tear something down. I wanted to build something better. My consulting firm grew faster than I could have imagined. Within 3 months, I had a small team, women from industries just like mine, all carrying their own scars. We didn't build a business to compete with the company that fired me. We built a business to outlast them. We operated with values they only pretended to have. We helped startups navigate growth without silencing their staff. We helped HR teams build real structures, not the broken facade that failed me. And the best part? The intern Blake harassed, she reached out. She'd heard what I was doing. She was in therapy, healing, and ready to work again. And so I hired her, not out of pity, out of respect. She became one of my brightest employees. Watching her find her voice was more satisfying than any article, any headline, any apology. I realized then I wasn't rebuilding my life. I was reshaping the system that tried to destroy me. Because power doesn't just sit in boardrooms or behind glass doors. Sometimes it starts on a couch with a laptop and a woman who refuses to stay silent. The first message came late at night, a number I didn't recognize, no caller ID. I let it go to voicemail. His voice cracked through the speaker, low and shaky. "Hey, it's Blake. Please, can we talk? I think this has gone too far." Too far? This from the man who abused his power, manipulated a young intern, and stood by while I was publicly destroyed? I listened to that message 3 times, not because I was considering a reply, but because I wanted to remember that sound. That's what desperation sounds like, when someone who once had everything to lose finally does. Over the next few days, I got more messages. He said he'd lost everything, that he was divorcing, that he couldn't find work, that his name was unhireable. And still, he never once apologized. Not really. It's just excuses. Just fear. It would have been easy to lash out, to scream, to post screenshots of his voicemails, to drag his name through every digital alley I could find. But I didn't. Because true power isn't loud. It doesn't need to shout. It just ignores. I blocked the number, permanently. No closure, no final words, no forgiveness. Because forgiveness is a gift. And Blake, he never earned it. He wanted to talk. He should have listened when I warned him the first time. Now he gets silence. The same silence I endured while he got promoted. Only difference? Mine made me stronger. Yes? Made him disappear. A year after they fired me, I stood on a stage at a leadership conference. Room full of CEOs, founders, press. I wasn't there as a guest. I was the keynote speaker. The same woman they silenced now had a microphone, and everyone was listening. I didn't name names. I didn't have to. I spoke about ethics, about courage, about what happens when companies protect power over people. And I ended with this. You can fire a person, but you can't fire the truth. And eventually truth builds louder things than titles ever could. I looked down at the front row, and there she was, the HR manager who once dismissed me. Same stiff blazer, same tight smile. She looked at me the way someone stares at a fire they thought they'd put out, only to find it burning brighter than ever. She didn't clap, but the room did. I didn't feel rage. I didn't feel triumph. I felt peace. Because I was no longer the woman who needed them to believe me. I had become the woman who built without them, without their approval, without their protection, without their permission. Clients trusted me now. Journalists quoted me. Interns emailed me thanking me for showing them that silence isn't strength, and that speaking up, even when it costs everything, can still lead to something beautiful. I wasn't their cautionary tale anymore, and I was their consequence. And every time they saw my face on another magazine cover or heard my name at a conference, they were reminded of the one thing they couldn't erase. I didn't break. I rebuilt, and I made sure they'd never forget it. I used to think that healing looked like headlines, like victories and applause, like public wins that shouted, "I made it." But healing is much quieter than that. It's waking up and realizing you no longer rehearse what you'd say if you saw them again. It's hearing their name and feeling nothing. Not pain, not anger, just peace. It's walking into a meeting room, confident, unapologetic, and not worrying if you're too much. It's watching young women in your office take up space and knowing they're safe. There came a moment, on a rainy Tuesday, nothing special, when I caught my reflection in the elevator mirror, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't see the girl who was betrayed. I saw a woman, a builder, a leader, a survivor who didn't just make it out, but made something better because of it. Revenge lit the fire, but healing kept it burning. It taught me that success born from bitterness only burns so long, but success born from clarity, from truth, from purpose, that's the kind of flame that never goes out. I started choosing peace over proof, grace over grudge. I stopped waiting for the people who hurt me to make it right, and started making myself right. That's when I knew I had won, not because I ruined them, but because they no longer defined me. It was 1 year and 4 months after they fired me when I got the email. A major publication, one that once praised my former company, wanted to feature me, a full profile, cover story, from silenced to CEO, the woman who rewrote the rules. I said yes. The day the magazine came out, my phone buzzed all morning. Texts, emails, mentions, clients were thrilled, colleagues proud. And then I saw it, a familiar name in the inbox. The subject line read, "Congratulations, you've become everything we tried to be." It was from my former CEO. No apology, no justification, just recognition. I didn't reply, because I didn't need validation from a man who let predators thrive under his roof. I didn't need closure from someone who watched my life collapse and called it policy. But I read it twice anyway, because in that short sentence was the truth. I had become what they pretended to stand for, what they posted in hashtags and mission statements but never really meant. I became the thing they only marketed. They tried to bury me in silence. That I bloomed in public. The final twist? I didn't just rebuild what they took. I outgrew it. And now they're left chasing a standard I set. Their legacy is one of cover-ups and collapse. Mine is living, breathing proof that no lie lasts forever and no truth stays buried for long. I walked past their old building the other day. It had a new name on the door. A new logo. But I smiled, because no matter how many times they rebrand, they'll always know who really won. In the end, I realized something I wish I'd known sooner. The loudest justice is the kind you don't have to explain. It's not the press conferences, not the headlines, not the viral threads or whispered rumors. No, it's the quiet way they watch you thrive without them. The way they scroll past your face on the cover of something they used to control. The way your name echoes in the rooms they were certain you'd never enter again. Justice is not about revenge. It's about restoration. It's building a life so solid, so deeply rooted in truth and integrity that no one can ever threaten it again. It's becoming someone so full of fire and grace that even your scars become part of your crown. They tried to erase me, but I didn't vanish. I multiplied in every young woman I hired, in every ethical company I helped grow, in every survivor who wrote me and said, "Because of you, I didn't stay silent." They took my job, my reputation, my future, and handed it to a man who didn't deserve any of it. So I built something they couldn't take from me, something permanent. There's something powerful. My story is no longer about what they did to me. It's about what I did next. And if you're watching this now, if you've ever been betrayed, silenced, or underestimated, just know you are not broken. You are becoming. And sometimes the quietest revenge is just living well in a life they can no longer touch. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear. Silence isn't weakness. It's just the pause before your rise.